This is Budgeting 101 with Joni Kern.
Good morning, everybody. We have, today's talk is on scams, and I figured instead of me talking about them, I would bring in an expert. So I brought in Susan, yeah, how about that? Segue. I brought in Susan Bach, who is the regional director of the Better Business Bureau. Her office is in Appleton, and she serves the entire northeast Wisconsin area, or most of it. She actually has a long history. I've known her for 10 years or close to it. She has a long history with the Better Business Bureau, and I thought she would be a great person, especially as we go into winter with all of the scams starting to come, because we tend to give more before Christmas than we do any other time of the year, and crooks happen to know that. So, without further ado, I really want to introduce all of you to Susan Bach.
Well, thank you, Julie, for having me. Is this a good, if I'm not in the right spot?
I'll go check. This'll all be it. Josh edits. Josh said, you just get it recorded, I'll edit. Oh, good,
Am
Josh.
I in a good spot?
You're in a terrific spot.
Excellent. So thank you so much for having me and coming out on this morning. It was nice to see all of you. First of all, before I get started, how many of you have heard of the Better Business Bureau? Great. And how many of you have used any of our services? Oh, okay.
Not yours, but down in Florida.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, just a little bit of background information about the Better Business Bureau. We're a nonprofit organization, contrary to popular opinion. A lot of people think because we have the name Bureau in our name that we might be a government agency or a law enforcement agency, but we're not. We're a private nonprofit organization. We actually started in 1912, back in the day of, investment scams and the original Ponzi schemer, Charles Ponzi, and the snake oil salesman. And advertising was very unregulated back then. You could really, sell anything and say that it cured all of your ills. And so there was a group of advertisement executives who said, this is bad for us because nobody believes anything that we're putting out there. Nobody believes any advertisements at all. And there ought to be a way that consumers can tell the good companies from the bad companies. We ought to create standards so that we can self-regulate ourselves. And so that was sort of the beginning of the Better Business Bureau. We started out as a division of the National Advertising Council. We moved to the Chambers of Commerce. And in 1939, we started in Wisconsin, down in Milwaukee. Then in 2007, we opened a branch office in Appleton. And we also have a branch office in Madison. So we've been around in Wisconsin and in the country for quite a while. There's 122 BBB offices throughout North America. We have offices in every state and every province in Canada, and we're even moving into Mexico, which is pretty exciting. So some of the services that we provide for people are free business reviews. So if you are considering doing business with a company, you can contact the Better Business Bureau first, and we will give you free information about that company. It will include how long they've been in business, the owner name, their address, if they have any complaints, the result of those complaints, if they're properly licensed, that's a good place to find that out, and we'll rate them on an A+ through F scale. So that's an easy way for people to compare two different companies. We also have a complaint resolution service, so if you're having problems with a company and they just don't seem to be cooperating with you, you can't get anywhere with them, you can contact the Better Business Bureau and we will help you with that complaint problem. It's all a free service. We act as an intermediary between the two parties, so we will kind of facilitate communication between both parties until they can come to a resolution. We also investigate bad businesses. We have an investigator down in our Milwaukee office. She monitors complaints coming in. She monitors phone calls from consumers coming in. She runs reports. She talks to a lot of consumers. Oftentimes the BBB is sort of the first organization to hear about maybe a person who's going door to door, not, selling something that is a little sketchy, or there maybe is an infomercial on TV, or somebody's received a mailing. And because we have an 800 number, oftentimes the Better Business Bureau is the first organization to hear about those. So that's how we kind of keep tabs, and then we share that information with law enforcement agencies when necessary, the Federal Trade Commission. We upload our complaint data to the Federal Trade Commission pretty regularly. And we do work with law enforcement agencies. So although we can't go out and shut a business down or arrest anybody, like people so often ask of us to do, we will work with law enforcement agency to get that done. So, and then as we have always, our back to our roots, we create ethical standards for good businesses. No problem. So, why am I here today? Thanks to Joni. I'm here to talk about scams, especially scams that target seniors. According to the Department of Aging, by 2030, people 65 years and older will grow 19% to 72.1 million people. That's a lot of people. So, as that demographic grows, we've discovered that so do the scams against them. And according to a recent elder fraud survey, 1 in 5 seniors have been victims of fraud. So that is really alarming us, and there's a lot of organizations like the Better Business Bureau, the Senior Medicare Patrol, that go out there and try and educate seniors about common scams. So we've discovered, why is it that scammers like you so much? Why are they targeting seniors? Well, for one thing, you have excellent credit. You have a long history of building and keeping that good credit that you've worked so hard for, which unfortunately makes you a really good target for identity thieves. They want to steal your credit history, and take out loans and mortgages and credit cards in your name, unfortunately. You also own your own home, so that makes you very vulnerable to home improvement scams, things of that nature. You have more disposable income than your younger counterparts. You're home during the day to answer the phone or answer the door, and believe it or not, that's a prime reason why people are calling you, because they know that you're going to be home. We also found that you're, as a demographic, more unlikely to report fraud, unfortunately, and that people tend to take advantage of you because they are more tech savvy than you are, unfortunately, and that you're more trusting, you're too nice. So hopefully we can change that today.
Nobody's going to be nice anymore, are ya?
Okay, so through all of these complaints and this consumer inquiries that we get on our hotline, here are some of the top scams that we hear about, especially those that are targeting seniors. And I did provide a brochure for everybody. Some of these are going to be on there, some are not. These ones are more targeted to seniors. The brochure that you have really is for all age groups. So, so the first one are scams involving healthcare. And we found this to be true, especially with the onset of the Healthcare Reform Act, Obamacare, where people were required to have health insurance. Otherwise, there was going to be a penalty. So scammers used that little hook that you're required to have health insurance to perpetrate their scam. So they said they'd call a consumer and they'd say, you have to give me this information. It's required by law. I need your social security number so that we can start sending you information about our healthcare plans. That was a scam. We also hear about, especially during Medicare open enrollment periods, we will hear stories about scammers who call or email seniors and say, I'm just wanting to update your Medicare information. I want to send you a reimbursement check, so give me your bank account number or your credit card number. That is all a scam. Medicare would never do that, so be wary of those. Especially this time of year, we hear a lot about door-to-door salespeople scams. So typically how that works is that somebody will go around a neighborhood, they'll target one neighborhood, they'll knock on all the doors, and then they'll say, hey, I just did your neighbor's driveway repairs down the street, and I have some leftover asphalt. So for today only, if you say yes now, I can give you a great deal on some asphalt or driveway repavement. That typically is a scam because we know that those types of crews are usually from out of state. They stay in one area, like Wapaka, for maybe a couple of days, and then they move on very quickly. They try and target and hit as many houses as they possibly can. The problem is that they're probably not licensed to do business here in the state. We have many complaints afterwards that the quality of their service was very poor. But the problem is that we can't find them. So when the spring, your driveway is cracking, or maybe even earlier, it's crumbling, we can't find them to have them come back and fix it or to file a complaint against them. They kind of disappear without a trace. So if that is the sales ploy, that somebody says it's your lucky day because I have some leftover materials, that is not your lucky day. That's probably the time where you should close the door and lock it and not answer it. It happens with driveway repair. It could be somebody walking around a neighborhood and saying, I see you've got some loose shingles on your roof. I have some shingles in my truck that would match. Or we'll hear door-to-door meat sellers. So sometimes people will walk around the neighborhood and they'll say, I have, a couple of cases left of steaks that I have to get rid of before I can head back to the office. So I'm, for tonight only, I can give you a great deal on this frozen meat. Well, we get a lot of complaints that, maybe the top layer looks great, but everything underneath that is very inferior. They try to return it. They can't reach the company. The company doesn't return phone calls. So I guess the moral of the story is, don't fall for the old sales trick of, I have some leftover material. Any sales pitch that starts with that is probably a time where you should beware, proceed with caution. Maybe get a business card from them and do a little research on that company first. Find out if they are local. Oftentimes the address on the business card will be either a post office box or a local hotel, something like that. They really don't want to be found afterwards. So good time to maybe get some more information from them. Call the Better Business Bureau, see if we have any information. The beauty about the database of the Better Business Bureau is that you can look up a company and they don't have to necessarily be in Wisconsin. They can be, from anywhere in the country or in Canada, and we will likely have information about them. So that's a good way for us to track people who are maybe moving from state to state. So be very careful about that. We also hear a couple instances, unfortunately, of funeral and cemetery fraud. Now, there was a case of a woman, not in Wapaka, but here locally in central Wisconsin, who unfortunately lost her husband. And there was an obituary in the paper, and then the funeral, and after she came home from the funeral, she got a call from a man who said, hi, this is John from, the ABC Life Insurance Company, and I'm so sorry about the loss of your husband. He didn't tell you, but he had a life insurance policy. He was just a couple of months behind in payments. So if you would like to get those premiums up to date, if you can pay, the remaining 3 months that are owed, we can give you a $10,000 life insurance policy. He took this policy out when he worked at, the ABC the ABC car company. And he wanted to protect you and your 3 children, and Unfortunately, he just missed a couple of payments. Well, she paid him. She lost $1,400. And as it turns out, he got all of that information from the obituary. He got the information about where the husband had worked, how many kids he had, the wife's name, all from the obituary. So I think this is a story about how scammers really have no heart, they have no conscience, and they're willing to take advantage of somebody when they're at their absolute lowest time. So just be careful about, if that should happen to you, be careful about people kind of calling out of the blue. Ask for some documentation. Let me see the policy. I don't think my husband would do that without telling me. So ask some good questions. We also hear a lot about companies who, or consumers who are buying counterfeit prescriptions. And that is a really big issue, especially for seniors. So if you hear about a great price on prescription medicine that you need, do a little research first. What we're finding is that, they're counterfeit medications, they don't really work, they're inferior quality, or the company just really doesn't have any kind of good customer service. You might wait too long for the medication. That's always a good time, really, to, if you're thinking about using one of those mail order companies, something like that, do a little research first and see what kind of history they have, how they treat their customers. Call the Better Business Bureau or go online and see if we can give you any information about them. We also hear a lot about telemarketing fraud. Anybody know what a robocall is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is there anybody in the room who's never received a robocall? Because that's probably...
I don't know what it is.
Okay, a robocall is when a computer dials about 10 different numbers simultaneously. And the lucky person who answers first will get a computer talking to them. The other 9 people will just get dead air. So if you ever pick up the phone and there's nobody there, that's probably why. Because it was a robo-dialer that was calling you and you weren't the first one to pick up. So, but what these robocallers are doing are they're selling, they're pitching lower interest rate on your credit card. It's all a recorded voice. Or they're pitching auto warranties for your car. But what you should know is that that particular marketing technique of robocalls is illegal. So if anybody is calling you and it's a computer on the other end of the phone, a computer voice, you should know that that's probably not a company that is on the up and up because they're using an illegal marketing technique. Now, there are some exceptions to that. If it is a political candidate, and we are all coming into that season, so beware, they are allowed to robocall you. Or if it's a company that you already have a previous relationship with, or if it's somebody who's not selling you something, like they're just giving you information. It could be your local police department saying that there's a weather emergency, or my school district for my kids calls me to tell me that school is delayed because of the weather, something like that. Those are legal. But the other robocalls that are trying to sell you something, those are illegal. So be wary of those. And we get so many calls from people who say, I just want them to stop. They call me 10 times a day. I just want them to stop. Well, the one thing that you should never ever do is when they say, press 1 to be removed from our list, don't do it. Because if you press any button at all, you're actually confirming to the computer that they've reached a real person. You're also giving them information about what time to call you back. So just hang up. Just hang up the phone on a robocall. And definitely don't press any buttons, because what they'll do is it'll be a confirmation to the computer that this is a good number, and then they'll sell it to other telemarketers. So it will actually increase the number of calls that you get. Isn't that crazy? Mm-hmm. Yes.
I get numbers like 5 numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Just
Not
5
a full-
numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who calls you, you think that you can trust your caller ID.
Yeah.
But you can't, because there is software out there that can fool your caller ID. So If I wanted to call you and I had one of these software devices, I could input any number that I want to display on your caller ID. I could input that I'm your bank calling, or your local police department, or the IRS calling. And that would appear, IRS would appear on your caller ID. That probably will make you more likely to pick up the phone, right? There was a big rash of calls last year where they were robocalls, but they had, they were coming from a 920 number. And in fact, the number was very similar to the number that they were calling, the household that they were calling. So that really piqued the curiosity of the person who, on the other end of the phone, or the homeowner. So that would make them pick up the phone. They were all spoofed. It was software that the scammer was using to trick you into thinking that it was a local call. So, yeah, very, very unfortunate.
Would that be a robocall also?
Well,
And like the 5 numbers, because when I do inadvertently pick it up, there's no one there.
yeah, probably a robocall then, that they probably called 10, 15 numbers at a time, and you just didn't pick up at the first ring, so,
Okay.
I didn't realize that.
yeah,
I hang up and I think, why did this ring? It rang 3 times. I didn't
yeah.
realize that.
They're just picking 15 numbers randomly. They don't even know if they're real working numbers. And that's why if you start pressing buttons to talk to somebody or to be removed from their list, you're confirming to them that it's a real number, so.
I did that once, and there was a real person.
Okay,
And I said, take me off your list. I did that a couple of times, and I was very angry about it. I got more calls than ever.
Yeah.
They just bombarded me with calls, like 10 calls a day.
they probably sold your number to another telemarketer.
Oh, that was so good.
A lot of people go, oh, I got that scammer. I took a blowhorn and blew it right in his ear, or I started, swearing at him or something. And I don't think I would recommend that. I think the easiest thing to do is be the bigger person and just hang up the phone, because you really want to get him, angry and waste his time like he's wasting yours. But there's been a couple of stories on the news where the scammer will just turn around and he'll sell your number to somebody else, to another telemarketer. If you really make him angry, he's gonna get you back, and he's gonna sell your number to more telemarketers, and you're gonna get more calls. So maybe be the bigger person.
What's the efficacy of the Wisconsin and federal no-call lists?
I was going to talk about that.
sorry.
That's okay. There is something called the federal do not call list. There used to be a separate one for Wisconsin and a separate one for federal. They're merged now. So all you need to do is call the do not call list. I think the information is on the back, which is great. And I would highly recommend that you call the do not call. You add your number to the do not call list, because it will decrease your calls from legitimate telemarketers. So people who are legitimately trying to sell you windows and siding and whatever. The problem is that scammers don't, scrub their call lists against the do not call list. They don't care if they're making an illegal call or not. So it's not gonna stop the people who are calling you illegally, but the people who are legitimately using telemarketing to, for their sales practices, it will stop those calls.
Is it also true they can now call cell numbers, so we need to put our cell numbers on the do not call list?
Yes, I believe you can put your cell phone numbers on the do not call list. That would be a good idea. As many numbers as you have, it certainly can't hurt. And it used to be that you had to sign up every 2 years.
That's listening.
Yeah, you do not need to do that. Once you put your phone number on there, it's good always until you tell them otherwise. So, good to know.
I'm
Good
getting
question,
calls at 4 to 6 every night, interrupting my dinner hour. It just irritates the daylights out of me. It's
Yeah.
different charities and that, so I suppose my number's out there that I'm home at that time, huh?
Yes, in fact, charities are exempt from the
I know, but
do
it
not
makes
call
me
and
mad.
I know, it does.
Why do you answer it?
Well,
It's
because
your house and
I
your
don't
time.
have the calling thing, I mean, it's ringing, so it could be family, so I pick it up.
Yeah.
They know it's a dinner hour with me, it would be an emergency with the family.
Right. I would recommend caller ID or at least an answering machine so that you can screen the
I do
calls
have the
first.
answering machine, but I don't think to let it go when it
Yeah.
happens, I just.
I always say, you know, like a legitimate person, anybody who really does need to speak to you, they'll leave a message. A scammer won't,
I'll
so,
have to get my own pulse not to answer the phone.
yeah. Or you could just turn off the ringer if you know, you just can't forget to turn back the ringer.
This is where we're too nice.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
We're forgetting, this is our home,
Yeah.
this is
Right.
our time,
Yes.
this is our
Makes
meal,
me mad.
this is our right to privacy,
Mhm.
and we don't have to answer the stupid telephone. The few times that a family member will call, as you said, they will leave a message, and
Yeah, and I mean, would your family call when they know that you're sitting down for dinner too? Probably not, unless it was an emergency, but, yeah.
but that's one in a zillion times for a
Right.
phone
I gotta reprogram my brain.
call. Get mean.
Yes, yes. And we also, believe it or not, we still get calls from people who swear that they've won the lottery or the Publishers Clearinghouse. And we always tell them, I can tell you, you know, you don't need to go any further because I can tell you right away it's a scam because they're asking for money up front. They say, you know, you want a sweepstakes or you want a lottery, all you need to do is give us a couple $100 to pay for processing fees or insurance, something like that. That's all illegal. So if anybody says that you've won some kind of prize and they want you to pay cash up front for that, that should be a huge red flag for you that it's a scam. So
Loan companies will do the same thing. You need to pay for processing up front. So anything that asks you to send them money up front, no.
yeah, actually, it's illegal for a loan company to ask for money up front unless it's for a customary fee like an inspection for your home. You would be normally paying that anyway, but that wouldn't go to the bank. But the scam is that they'll say, because you have bad credit, we want you to pay the first 6 months or the first 6 installments in advance. That's what's illegal, totally illegal. So there was a news story on just recently how they were finally able to arrest a big crime ring in Jamaica, living in these big elaborate houses in Jamaica, and their job really was to perpetrate these scams on Americans. It's a full-time job for some people in foreign countries to call Americans and try and get them to send them money for whatever reason. So anybody asks you to send money up front, that should be a big red flag. And the primary way that scammers want to be paid, you know, it used to be send us a check. Well, that didn't work out so well for them. So then they say, give me your credit card number. Well, people are getting really smart about not getting their credit card numbers over the phone. So now they'll say, wire the money, or go to the local Walgreens or Target and buy one of those prepaid MasterCards or Visas. You know, load $100 on it or whatever, call me back and read me the number on that. That is the preferred way now for scammers to get paid. Because once you give them those numbers, the money is gone. There's no way to retrieve it. It's totally retraceable. So the scammer will take that credit card number and they'll create a clone card with their name on it, and then they'll go shopping or they'll sell it or whatever. So huge red flag if anybody ever asks you to wire money via Western Union or MoneyGram, or to buy one of those prepaid debit cards. That's exactly the time where you should start asking some additional questions. Yes.
I had one that called and did not ask for money. He said that I won money and it was all approved by the government. He was calling from Washington DC or something.
That's what his caller ID said, but we don't know that for
A day
sure.
or two later, he called from, then he was in Florida. And the same kind of a deal, and then he said, I'll call you in a day or so and I'll bring the money. And I said, oh, just send it to me. He said, no, I'll meet you at the bank. And I said, well, I think, we could meet at the police station and then they can take me over to the bank.
Good for you.
You're not coming to my house to pick me up.
And you never heard from him again?
Of course not.
Good for you. Good for you. That's an excellent. If you're doing a transaction and you're a little uncomfortable with it, we find this a lot on Craigslist. People like to sell and buy things on Craigslist, but sometimes people use that to set people up. Like, you know, I'm selling a car on Craigslist. You want to buy the car? I'm going to know that you're carrying a big wad of cash. So maybe I don't have a car for sale, but I can pretend I do and say I'm going to meet you someplace. And people use that to rob people. So that's a really good situation where you might, you know, say, we will do this exchange in the lobby of the police department, something like that.
I had another thing, my grandson sold something for me, and I don't know if it was Craigslist or what, but he said, and it was a good thing he did it for me, because he had two kind of really weird calls,
Really?
and very broken English, you know, and he was smart enough to say, no, you know.
Good.
But he did get it sold to a legitimate person.
Good. Yeah,
I
and
think so.
I've sold things and bought things on Craigslist, and it worked out just fine. But my husband wanted to sell his fishing boat, and he put it on Craigslist. And right away, we got a reply from somebody in England. They wanted to buy the boat, sight unseen, pay full price for it. And I'm thinking, they don't have boats in England? Why do you have to come all the way to Wisconsin for that? Well, they will concoct some reason why they can't see you in person, why all the transactions or communications have to be via email. It's because they're trying to hide the fact that they're overseas, that they have broken English. So what would have happened is that, and we, you know, I put a stop to that right away, but we didn't even respond to the guy from England. But he would have sent us a check for more than the amount, and then he would have said, could you send the difference to like my shipping company or to this person who's going to be in charge of shipping the boat over to England? And I would have deposited the check and then taken out my own money to pay the shipper, and then the check would have bounced and I would have been out all that money. So that's what happens, you know. So, okay. Also, we get a lot of calls about those free trial offers. You know, it might be for vitamins or, you know, tooth whitening products, anti-aging creams, vitamins. And you always see the infomercial or the commercial on TV where it says, it's totally free, no risk, free trial offer. All you have to do is give me your credit card number to pay for shipping. And in the teeny tiny fine print, it says when you do that, you're submitting to a series of monthly shipments. And that unless you cancel within 10 days, they're going to continue to charge your credit card. And by the way, the 10 days starts when you hang up the phone. So you may not even see that vitamin cream or whatever until day 15 or day 20, but by then it's too late to cancel. So get a lot of calls about that and a lot of complaints at the Better Business Bureau. So that's one of those instances where free is too good to be true. That's one of those keywords that, you know, should maybe set off alarm bells in your head that there's nothing that's ever free. So, so for who here uses a computer regularly? Good. Have you ever gotten a call that says you've got a virus? This is Microsoft calling. And
I got one last night.
yeah, they've called me at work too. They had no idea of that. They were calling the Better Business Bureau. But, so the scam works like this. Hi, I'm calling from Microsoft, and I can tell from my office in Seattle or wherever it is that you've got a virus on your computer. So for the price of $1.99, I can remove the virus and upload some virus protection software for your computer. All you need to do is follow these instructions that I'm going to give you over the phone, and I will help you do that. And first of all, it's not Microsoft calling you. It's a scammer, probably from overseas. And What they're really doing is not removing a virus from your computer, they're probably adding a virus to your computer, or worse yet, what we call spyware. Spyware will record your account numbers, like when you log into your bank, it'll record your password, your account number, and then send it to him, like a spy on your computer. So, do not fall for that trick, because that is a total scam. If you get that call and you really do believe that you have a virus on your computer, hang up the phone with the guy who says he's from Microsoft and take it to a local computer shop, because that is really a scam. Yes, sir.
Microsoft is never gonna call you. They don't know what your computer's doing.
Right,
I found out the best solution. I've had plenty of these calls,
really.
and what I started doing is just saying very politely, "Oh, gee, I'm sorry, sir, you must have the wrong number. I don't even own a computer." The phone line goes dead right after I say that,
Yeah.
every time. So that would be my
I've had people say
advice.
that too. I got this call, I don't even own a computer. So they're calling people randomly, just randomly. And you're right, it's not even possible for somebody in a remote location to tell that there's a virus on your computer.
But the caller ID, I know somebody that fell for this, and the caller ID will come through as Redmond, Washington, where Intel is, or
Yeah.
Microsoft is, excuse me.
It's probably one of those spoofing devices that are
Mhm.
tricking your caller ID.
Mhm.
Yep. So, so be very careful of those. There's also something called ransomware, where maybe you visit a website or you think you're downloading software and you add some kind of virus onto your computer that a pop-up window will appear and it'll say, we're deleting your files, or you won't be able to access your computer until you call this number and pay money. It's called a ransomware virus. It's holding your computer ransom. What you should do is not click on anything, try and close the pop-up window, but unplug your computer. If they really are deleting files from you, unplug your computer. That will stop that, and then try and take your computer to a local computer expert. So, okay, and then the next scam that actually is very prevalent, we hear about this all the time, is something that we call the grandparent scam. Has anybody ever heard of that? Okay, it happens all the time, unfortunately, and this is how it works. Grandma or grandpa are at home, the phone rings, hello? Hi, Grandma, this is your favorite grandson. And then Grandma says, Johnny, is that you? Yes, it's me, Johnny. I'm in Canada on a fishing trip, or we went to Mexico on spring break, and I got in a car accident. I have hospital bills. I'm in jail because I hit some woman, and they threw me in jail, and can you please send me some money so that I can get out of jail? And then Grandma will say, Johnny, that doesn't sound like you, it sounds totally different. Oh, well, in the accident, I broke my nose, so I sound funny. Or Johnny will be crying, so it'll be very hard for Grandma to see, is it really Johnny or is it not Johnny? So, these are really prevalent. I can tell you 10 people who have fallen for this. It's maybe a situation where Grandma doesn't speak to the grandson very often, or, Grandma's just got a big heart and she doesn't want her, grandson to be in danger in a foreign country. The person on the other end of the phone who's pretending to be Johnny, the grandson, of course he'll always say, don't tell my mom and dad, I'm not supposed to be here, don't tell anyone. So that's a big red flag. If you get a phone call like that, just be wary. This is a very prevalent scam. So, have this conversation with your grandkids and tell them, if you want to call me for help, great, but be prepared because I'm going to ask you some questions just to make sure it's you. What's your middle name? What's your dog's name? What's my name? Because chances are they may not even know that. Now, we know that scammers can get a lot of information about people. Their siblings' names, their parents' names, from all of their social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. People will say, happy birthday, Grandma Jean, or whatever. And if there's a scammer that has friended your grandchild, they might use that information against them and against you. So, you know, it's always a good lesson to be very careful about what people put on Facebook. Never put something like, going on vacation for 2 weeks, gonna be out of the country for 2 weeks, you know, left the door unlocked. So stuff like that, just not a good idea to post personal information like that
Are they
on
telling
social
the
media.
high school kids and grade school kids this stuff in school that they shouldn't be doing
They
that? I
certainly
know
should.
I've told my kids, you know, if you're going on vacation, when you come back, talk about it, but don't say anything when
Right.
you're going. But do they really know the dangers of that?
I hope so. I hope so. I know that they're not teaching cursive writing in high school anymore or grade school, so maybe they can take that extra time to teach them about, you know, the dangers of social media.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we also hear a lot about investment scams. We all know about Bernie Madoff. He was just in the news. Of course, there was Charles Ponzi, who they named the scheme after. Does everybody know what a Ponzi scheme is? Okay, so basically, I'm going to pretend I have a company, and I'm going to ask you to invest $10. And in $10, you know, for every $10 you invest, I will double your money guaranteed in 90 days. So to pay you back your $20, now I have to get two more people to invest. And the scam goes on and on and on. More people are investing until it they run out of new investors and it tumbles like a house of cards. So there are still people in Wisconsin. I mean, there are Ponzi schemers in Wisconsin, not to the extent of Bernie Madoff, but they are here. And the important thing to remember is that an investment is a risk. There are no guaranteed results, right, Joni?
That's correct. You give me $10, I guarantee you I'll spend it in the first 90 days.
So that should be a red flag if anybody guarantees that you're going to double your money or that they're going to give you a certain amount of return. You should ask more questions because nothing is guaranteed in the stock market. And do you know, according to a recent survey that we did with an investment firm, the most likely person to fall for an investment scam is? Any ideas? Would be an educated white male over the age of 50 is much more likely to fall for an investment scam than any other demographic. Isn't that interesting? Because that's the person who might feel like they're behind on their retirement plan. They're willing to take more risk, ask less questions. They want to believe badly that it's true, so they're willing to take more chances. So be very careful. Yes.
Maybe it's good not to have any money. I'm on Social Security. I can't take my money because I don't have it, so.
So be very careful. And then last but not least, especially this time of year, we get a lot of people who are calling for charity. You know, make a donation to this charity, that charity. And that's all well and fine. We're all very generous, and especially, you know, the last quarter of the year is the time that we want to maybe get that donation in before the end of the year for tax purposes. The problem is that, especially when there is a big crisis on TV, right now it's the Syrian refugee crisis, but it could have been Hurricane Katrina or any of the other natural disasters. 9/11, we found that immediately after 9/11, somebody created a website and called it something similar to the American Red Cross. And they stole all the logos, made it look like the American Red Cross site. So hundreds, if not thousands of people donated online to this site, and it wasn't the Red Cross. So be very careful. We found there was a school shooting in West Virginia. Virginia Tech is where it happened. Immediately, within an hour of that tragedy happening, there was probably 100 websites registered that said Virginia Tech Massacre. Now, it doesn't mean that all of these people were buying these website domains for bad purposes, but some of them will, and they'll create websites for, you know, people to donate to this tragedy because we know that people want to help so badly. But it's always a good idea, you know, if you are contacted by a charity, ask for more information. The Better Business Bureau reviews charities much like they review businesses. And we don't give them an A+ through F grade like we would with a business, because we rate charities on different standards. But we will tell you whether or not that charity meets our 20 standards of wise giving, of charitable accountability. So those standards include things like, for every dollar collected, at least 65, a minimum of 65% of all of your donations collected must go straight to the mission. Only 35%, a maximum of 35%, can go to administrative costs. So that's one of our charitable accountability standards. Many ethical, reputable charities far exceed those, where their numbers are more like 90% of all of their dollars collected are going to the mission and only 10% for administrative costs. So that's a good question to ask. Or just ask for them to send you some information in writing. A good charity will be able to do that. You know, if they need your dollar today, they certainly will need it tomorrow as well. Ask for information to send it to you about, you know, their governing standards. Who's governing them? How much of each dollar is going to the cause? What exactly is their cause? Is it for research, or is it for victims, or, you know, breast cancer victims, or is it for breast cancer research? So those are some good questions to ask, and especially this time of year as well, we get people who are getting called by their Police and Firefighters Association. Has anybody ever received a call?
Just got one the other day.
Okay, so we happen to know that people who call claiming to be from your local Police and Firefighters Association, it's a professional fundraiser that's calling you. It's not illegal. I'm not going to say it's a scam, because it's a legitimate company. But the problem is that professional fundraising companies often take 90% of all of the money that they collect.
So we constantly get calls from the VA, but we just say we're not interested. And Vincent, I don't know why we get calls from the VA. The government takes care of these soldiers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that is a legit call.
Ask for more information. Ask them, are you with the Veterans Administration? Not representing the Veterans Administration, but are you an employee, or are you a professional fundraiser? Because if you really, want to make the most of your donation and really want to support your police and firefighters, maybe just give to them directly instead of paying a professional fundraiser. So here are some tips to protect yourself, and most of these we've already talked about, but sign up for the Do Not Call list. Information should be on that pamphlet, but you can always call the Better Business Bureau. We're here to help. Our number is also on the back of that pamphlet, and it's also on the refrigerator magnet. So give us a call or go online to our website. It's just bbb.org. We can help you sign up for things like the Do Not Call list, or help you with information about a company. Be very aware and wary of high-pressure sales tactics, like a person knocking on the door saying that he has leftover supplies. Be wary of any unsolicited correspondence from people claiming to be from a government agency, a credit card company. Banks are never going to ask you, to verify your social security number or verify your account number. Yes?
The one scam you did not mention was the IRS. Someone called me 2 months ago saying that they were from the IRS, and that they've been trying to get a hold of me, and if I don't call them back, they're going to sue me.
Yes.
And they left a phone number. I did not call that number.
Good.
I got my tax papers out from last year, got that number, called them, and he asked me a bunch of questions. Did you pay them? I said, no. Did you call them? No. Good girl.
Good girl, I agree.
Then he did give me a website that I had to go on to and answer questions, like what was the phone number?
Yeah, they're trying to track those calls.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah, that's very clearly, and thank you for bringing that up, but that's very clear on the IRS website that it's a very prevalent
They do
scam.
not call, they would mail you something. he
Right.
said.
The IRS just does not operate like that. They're not going to send somebody to your house to arrest you. It's a scammer
Yeah.
calling from another company or country trying to get your credit card number, and just using flat out bully tactics. And they know that if the IRS is displayed on your caller ID, that you're more likely to answer the phone, so.
Cause he wanted the phone number and everything.
Yep, absolutely. Big, big scam. I can't remember the millions of dollars that have been lost, but it's a lot, so just be wary. If the IRS needs to reach you for something, the first thing they're gonna do is send you a letter, so be wary of that. So make sure you pay with very secure payment methods. We talked a little bit about the prepaid debit cards or the wire transfers. Once you read that number from the MoneyGram place or from the prepaid debit card, that money is gone. So don't ever send money to somebody you haven't talked to or met in person. Especially, I never give my credit card to anybody who calls me. If I make the phone call, then I'm okay with handing over my credit card information. But if somebody calls me, I don't like that. So every year, the Appleton Post-Crescent calls and asks me if I want to renew my subscription. But it's the sale price, it's the retention department that's calling me. So if I want to take advantage of the sale price, I have to give my credit card over the phone. And I say, I would love to renew my subscription, but I'm going to call you. So I go to my bill and I find the phone number on the bill for the Appleton Post-Crescent. I ask for, the person who called me, and then I'm happy with giving my credit card number. So just do the same. Also, safeguard your personal information. Avoid sharing your social security number, your bank information, your birth date, even your address. There are some websites like Walmart. They have a plan, kind of like a layaway plan used to be, where it's called Bill Me Later. It's a line of credit, but all they really need to run a credit check on you through this Bill Me Later plan is your name and the last 4 digits of your social security number. They don't need your full social security number, which is strange, but if somebody calls you and asks to verify the last 4 digits of your phone number or your social security number, it's not okay to give it to them. Don't, because it could be one of these types of scams. So, and last but not least, always, always check out a company, a product or service with the Better Business Bureau before you hand over any money, because our information is free. We're here to help. If you get a suspicious call or anything, please give us a call first, because that's what we're here for. So with that.